All right, welcome back to the Autodesk booth here at IBC, and we're going to take you through Power Your Creative Pipeline. My name is Will Harris, and I'd like to actually start by set the table by playing you back this sort of epic commercial from the guys at PsyOp for Samsung Galaxy. So thank you guys at PsyOp for that.
Today, science fiction has turned to fact. Aliens have arrived.
All right, so I call it an epic commercial. In fact, that's just the first half. I don't have enough time to play you back the whole thing. And it really was part of a big internet campaign that I think has seen something like 56 million views so far. So that sure tells you something about what you can do with internet marketing. And really what I wanted to explain to you, another reason I call it an epic commercial is just because obviously this is not a one-man job. It's not even a 10-man or person job. It is a huge collaborative project with lots of different artists doing lots of different kinds of work. Now, the point of this presentation is really to show you how the Flame system can actually play into a pipeline. So how can it integrate into a complex, essentially long-term job like this that maybe takes a month or 2 or 3 to complete? So really there's some techniques that we're going to see here that really are not a normal Flame demo. This is going to be essentially a different way of thinking, a way of distributing your work to servers, to the file system, to job trees. And then I'm going to show you hopefully some mind-blowing sort of workflow enhancements that allow us to dynamically update our finishing timeline. So as you get towards the end of a commercial, where you have essentially a 90-second, a 60-second, a 30-second international domestic of each of those, a long play director's cut, and this delta of deliverables, how we can dynamically link the latest version of our shots into every single one of our timelines. That's something that has not been possible up until now. A lot of my customers, a lot of my Flame customers asked me for this functionality, so I'm excited to show it to you. Okay, so it all starts, of course, with a conform. We have a whole environment for that here. I'm just going to show you how, if I drag into my my Flame here, and I could be doing this with Flame Assist, by the way, as well on either Mac or Linux. An AAF coming from the Avid Media Composer and a reference. So really the finishing process, of course, starts from editorial, right? So there could well be animation and 3D animation that's already started at this point, but what we're going to do is we're going to lay out the shots, the actual shots that make up the commercial. And really what I have here, as you can start to see, if I just open this up in my conform tool, is an edit that needs to be conformed. I do have a reference that I'm going to use and show you just how powerful our conform tool has become. Because if you've ever done any editing conforming, it can be quite difficult to manage the kind of the human errors in editorial into the conforming process. So we have a troubleshooting environment for that. And really, the techniques that I'm going to use here involve taking a look at my reference. So that's my reference picture at the bottom there for this little section. And then here's all the events that need to be relinked. So I probably didn't edit, of course, with the same material the editor did. He might have worked with QuickTime movies, perhaps lower quality images on his Mac hard drive or whatever it is. I have a server full of images or maybe some hard drives that I want to link to. So what I do is I go and set my search location. So what this means is that I'm going to go out and actually look at my server structure here. So let me just go back and show you what I mean. So here's some dailies. Here's day one of my dailies, right? So I'm going to start with that. This is log C ARRI material. And I'm able to do some linking right off the bat. So maybe I'm going to link via tape name and time code, or in this case, file name and time code is a good for a chunk of my footage. So let me match that up. I'll hide those link ones. And what you can see is that the next thing might be to go back and pick day 2. I've actually got some ProRes 4444XQ, one of the latest formats we support here. And if I just actually take a look at that, rather than using the alpha channel to match there, I'm going to match it straight from just the raw image. So just give me a second. I will pick that and choose to ignore. So that's good. That means that there's most of the day 2 stuff is going to link up as well. And really what's left is the troublesome shots. So these ones here have got no time code. This one's actually labeled bad time code. So this is the kind of troubleshooting, the kind of problems that you might experience. And we have tools to deal with this. So I can actually work on my sources here. I could change the number. I could slip it around if I wanted. Or I could even add an hour to the time code if I know that that's what I need. So I could just say, give me 1 hour time code on that instead of 0. So how do we deal with this? Well, right now my problem is that my footage has got no good metadata, and really all I have left here is to understand that their footage is in a different path to where I have my footage. So I'm just going to pop back in here and show you how I can just sort of hardwire it as a last resort. So if I know that everything is in this folder here, what I can do is I can just copy and paste this. Notice how there's the day 1 and the bad TC is there. So I come back to my conform tool and I say, well, I see what's going on here. And if I were to just select those, you can see the generic part, day X, so essentially 1XX. So then I can come in here and say, well, this needs to be that. And if I just hit a key here, you'll be able to see how that should be able to match it purely based on file name to that location. So this is, again, just an example of the troubleshooting functionality that we have. If we know that we need to point back to some extra graphics that I have here, that's easy enough to do as well. So really what I have then is a timeline that is ready to be worked on in the next step. And that is to do some renaming. So let me just show you my clips again. You can see the file names there, but renaming is a big problem, right? The disparity in names is something that is not friendly to visual effects work. We want this to be cleanly named, shot 10, shot 20, shot 30, shot 40, shot 50, and so on. And of course, the added complication could be that some of my footage has got multiple clips where I've got a background, and I've got, let me just show you, I've got here backgrounds and foreground elements that need to be included in that shot 30. So how do we tackle this? Well, this is a cool functionality because it really allows us to select my clips that are called door and feet and whatever they're called. And this empty field here that's called shot name allows me to tag the shots with their real name that I want to call them. So really all I need to do here is choose what we call rename shot. and I'm going to use some tokens. So this is a macroized way of saying I want to use a counter that counts 1, 2, 3, 4. Of course, it needs to count in tens. That's the typical way of doing visual effects naming. This job is going to be called Samsung Galaxy Shot 10, and of course, I might even want to go further and set the padding of how I want to do it. So then what this does is it just starts the paper trail for me. It starts the renaming, and you can see in brackets the names of the clips. Now what I need to do is actually, if I just sort by my record time code here, you're going to see how this reveals the next little challenge I need to deal with. So let me just grab that. So 10, 20, these two clips here, which I just centered them up, need to also be attached to shot 30. So this is just an interesting technique where we can grab these two clips, make sure that they're named the same. And this is really a process of tagging my shots. Now, they still have their editorial names. If I wanted to, I could actually go a little further with this. And what I could do is I could take the basic editorial naming away as well. That might be useful to name the plates uniquely. Background, background alternate, and foreground, right? So I know what I'm going to work on. That's my naming convention. And really what I'm going to do for all my shots here is I'm now going to take over the main naming of the clips. I'm going to use that common shot name as a token that's obviously the same for all three of those clips, underscore the track name. So what will happen here then is that now I have a completely clean, relabeled timeline. So the shots that have multiple segments now have nicely labeled clips. That's great. So I'm now at a point where I'm ready to send this off to my server. So really, what I wanted to introduce to you now is this concept of a job tree, where each and every shot has a name. Perhaps the work is already being done. The animation effects, lighting, layout on the 3D side might already be working. And here in the compositing, we have the different products that might be used on the show. And I want to show you how Flame can just sort of fold right into that standardized structure, as opposed to being a single item, a sort of no longer anymore a black box storage in your workflow. So what I want to do is just pick my job tree, take my finished renamed sequence here, and show you how we have this tool called Sequence Publish. And this is really a way of defining a naming convention. So if I just pick one of the samples here, you can see I have my structure, which is based on these tokens. Let me just quickly go as if to build you a new one. So if I use the clip name, I can see that takes the name of my edit, and below that, I might add the shot name. That's the generic shot name for shot 30. I want to then break out my individual clips via the segment names, so you can see that it's going to fan out the content into those subfolders as I need. Let's now go to one of the real ones, essentially fitting the way that the guys at SciOp do it, sending my video into Publish, and so on. And really just to finish off here, I want to show you how the next piece in the puzzle is to join the dots, right? So it's one thing, it may be very useful to be able to just spit out the footage so that everyone else can use it. But what if you want to reconnect your work back into your timeline so that when a composite is done, in the return timeline, we're going to see the composite, and then we'll see another composite and another composite. That then becomes a much more powerful workflow via these three components. Our output clips, essentially, our segment clips, which are going to be the foreground, background, midground. The batch, which is Flame's compositing script. In this case, there's going to be 3 inputs and 1 output that's going to come back to the timeline via this clip here. So these are really just pointers that connect the conform timeline through to the compositing timeline. So when that's done, what we're going to see here is the footage fanned out into the tree. So we actually have a graphic that's going to explain this a little bit. I realize this can be a little complicated. So if you could just pull up the graphic there, thank you. Yeah. So really, what are we talking about? We're talking about a complex job that requires the use of multiple products. It might start here in the Flame, using Flame Assist or Flame to distribute your work. Why do we need to do that? Well, because we need to be able to allow us to work with all kinds of other software that you might use and make a standardized structure. You might use Flare as one of the components to be able to do compositing. But the important thing here is the ability to generate this structure, right? Because this is how we play nice with all the other software in the building. the XML pointer clip is really the Flame's proprietary way of linking back to its own timeline. But that's good. That's something that we're going to need. I'm going to show you that working with Maya as well. Here we also want to point out that this open clip XML is the metadata that we use. Okay, so let me do this. Let me wander over to this other machine and show you how on a completely separated machine here. I'm going to just clear what I was doing last time. Excuse me. All I'm going to do here is I'm just going to load right from that job tree the content that we need. So remember, there's the job tree, there's the shots. If I want to work on shot 150, I can step in, here's compositing, here's flame, here's the batch. That's what was just sent out by that process, right? So this is the composite available to me. So that what I can do here is I can basically, as a different artist, I can come in here and work on this shot. And you can see there's my extra element, there's my background. And if I just wanted to pull out something simple here, what you're going to see is that we should be able to then just plug in. I'm just going to plug in a little piece of work here so that we can connect these pieces. The important part here, of course, is the write file node. And that's really the thing that sends the comp back to contribute with the timeline. So let me just show you that piece. And I'm just going to connect this bit up. And really what I've got then is the ability to send this out. And I'm just going to see how the render is already bumped to version 2 there. And if I just show you, how this looks, we could, of course, use some color management. This is just a simple key. And I'm going to send this out to render. All right, so that's me contributing a simple comp to the timeline. How do I see the update? Well, something that you can do when you make the export there is to make a publish of your back timeline. And I've got it here in my Dropbox. So let me just pull out this live timeline and show you how it can be updated dynamically. So yeah, it's really a process where I can drag the timeline from somewhere else, and let's just see if we can have a look at this. So there's the back plate of the shot, and really what I want to do is I want to just show you how if I come in here and I say update, what I should get here is that latest version that I just produced. So let's just see if I'll give it some love. And not right now, but hopefully you can at least see the different versions. That was actually the raw as well as the graded available to us there. So let's actually do this. Let's move on to take a, oh, there it is. There we go. Thank you, sir. So that was the one I just contributed in and that I'm able to see in the context of my timeline. But let's do this. Let's take this a different direction. Let's actually go ahead and use Flare together with Maya to show you how this can be an open ecosystem. So what I'm going to do actually then is I'm going to come back here, and if we could go to a 2-up view, please. I'm going to play the part of Maya here, and Toba-san is going to go ahead and do a little bit on shot 30, if you could, Toba. So this is really just to illustrate how, if you're compositing, obviously upstream of you is the 3D department that could be producing content such as a render, in this case coming from Maya. But the point here is that this process could work for any pipelinable application. So really what that means is he's going to take a multi-EXR, plug it into his composite, and if I was making another render of this over on the Maya side, all I need to do here is essentially bump my render version to version 2, and via this little post-render script here, I'm adding a version to that. So you should be able to now go ahead and hit the update button, and you'll be able to see him switching from a yellow CG wall over to green, I think. And it's really this, so then if you think about it, what we're trying to do is we're trying to achieve a synchronization process that can send itself through and ripple through your pipeline. So whether it's graded media coming in or whether it's an updated CG render, if he goes ahead and makes an output of that coming back to the timeline, what I can do then, if I switch back over to Flame here, I can just show you how on that shot 30 here, I'm currently looking at the back plate, right? But if I go ahead and just do that same update process, it's going to select the latest for me. The reason that it doesn't update automatically is that as a supervisor artist, I don't want things to change underneath me, but at a time when I'm ready to receive new versions, all I have to do is say, give me the updates to this timeline, and I will then see it. So that's cool. Okay, let's now just take a look at some of the creative stuff that's also in this piece. I'm going to just show you some of the cool work that one of the artists did on some of the footage here. So this is the goalkeeper as he gets hit by the ball. And really the problem here on this pre-render is that we want to add some more Shazam. We want to add some more electrocution kind of effects as the guy gets hit by the ball. And that's something that might be done as a finishing compositor, something that you do to really make this look real nice. So moving later on in the job here, I wanted to just show you how this might come together. If I were to just show you the technique that was used to get that, because obviously all the CG could be baked in at that point, and I might not be able to get a matte that would be appropriate for this, and I certainly wouldn't be able to relight that and get like a glancing effect or a wireframe kind of glitch in that character or something like that we're trying to achieve without something like what I'm going to show you right now, which is actually an alembic model. So by bringing an alembic format of geometry right into your finishing compositing here, what you could do is you could actually rebuild the lighting on this guy. So what I'm going to do is just show you how I'm actually working with like a big model here, 200, I think it's something like 2 million polygons in this piece. You could see that if I were to just highlight it here by just taking my geometry and put it to wireframe. And you'll be able to see that at this point, especially if we zoom in, you can get a good idea as to just how much is going on here. So let me just get up on him a little bit. There we are. So this is my goalie, and of course that's just a wireframe view. What I might want to do is start with that and then add some textures to it. So let me go ahead and pull out one of the really cool Matchbox shaders that's part of the sort of Flame community tool set here. This is the CPGP fractal cell, and I'm going to take just a source texture and show you how it's actually pretty cool the way that you could use this source texture to feed into the fractal generator. And by changing up the texture, what you're going to see here is that it's going to change the way that the fractals are generated. So just by moving things around, I can do that. I could change the preset to something completely different, and you're going to get a different look. So if that's kind of the sort of lighting I want on my guy, I'm going to wrap him with that, and you're going to start to understand how this can be a real interesting sort of creative way of changing things up. So let me just add some more intensity to the light here. Maybe nuance it more in the blue sort of aesthetic that we have here. I can move the light around, and that's the power of a 3D model, right? Is that it could be relit even at this late stage in the shot. So then, remember the discussion we were having earlier about the being connected to the pipeline? Even though I just did that little experiment in isolation, there's a nice technique here where I can pull up my timeline, which is a lot further along at this point, and pick the shot that I want to work on. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say, okay, well, this one actually I'm going to contribute here. And if I go what we call append to batch, what it's going to do is going to automatically load the latest version from the server and bring it into my environment so as that I could, if I wanted, this is the little experiment I was working on, I could just plug this in, maybe as part of my pipeline. But like I said earlier, the important thing is this write node, because this tells us exactly where to put this back to on the server and essentially slot in my new creative work with the stuff that's already been done. So just what they actually were trying to pull off on this particular shot here was this is a different shot. This is the defenders who are coming into the scene, and he's actually used reflection, used the Alembic cache to produce reflection effects, which I thought was a really just an interesting creative, here we go, a creative way of doing things that you couldn't do with a 2D situation. So let me just show you this and really just take a look at the downstream context once this is composited into the scene. And you'll be able to see that we're moving into some of the mastery of Elad here, one of the artists, but you could see how I can then rotate the 3D model to produce a reflection that is exactly where I want it as we get towards finaling this comp, right? So this is all part of the fun. It's going to feed right back to my timeline. Essentially, I've pipelined this node back out. It makes a new batch. It's ready to go, a new version, and so on. So this is just a technique that I wanted to show you how it really comes to fulfillment at the very end of your job when you might have multiple timelines. So how many timelines might you have? Well, you might have the different versions. We talked about it earlier. You might even have a new cut coming in from editorial at this point. So let's just take a look at that. I was just going to show you how, if we go to this set of reels here, just clearing the decks, I'm gonna bring in yet another one. So let's just, this is the kind of curveball that you might be hit with, right? Is that you're going to need to, we've changed the edit. So look, here's a cut down of the edit, and it's a 15-second that needs to be, sent out to the client right now. So we'll come in and we'll bring in our latest edit. So what do I want to link it to? Well, of course, I don't want to link it to plates, raw material anymore. What I want to do is I want to take this and I want to link it to my actual live footage here. And let me just, let me grab it in the right format there. I think that's the 2K one. I'm gonna just pull in my timeline at the same resolution here. There it is. And I'll grab it here. That's what I'm after. There we go. Let's just drop that straight into there. Okay, good. So, so coming back, I wanted to just show you how this is ready to be linked. It's a simple timeline. Notice how the names now reflect whatever version they had last, fed back to editorial. We can send an AAF with media back to an Avid these days. And then I want to relink, not to raw footage. As I said, I want to be able to take the latest versions of these comps, which are currently sitting at, different versions in the timeline. And I want to, this one here, for example, is currently at version 8. So what I want to do is I want to match out these smart clips, if you like. And this is my versionable sources that I want to link to. So this is just showing you how dynamic this can be. These are my versionable sources. This is my timeline that I need to relink. Again, it's sort of just one of those problems I have to deal with. And I can point straight down, all the way down here to those versionable sources, set that as my destination to link. And of course, they're not named quite the same as what we have, but we have a way to turn off strict matching so it can do a partial name match, and we'll link those up. And check it out, I've now got an updated timeline with all the same versions in. But the real trick to this then is that we want to then bring back even more timelines to just illustrate how you could have a disparity, right? So like I said earlier, the timelines don't update underneath you. If you saved a particular timeline on a Friday night, you don't want Monday's renders to arrive in it the next week. But if you wanted to make a change, you can now make a change on any one of these timelines and then synchronize it to all of them. So that's really my point here, is that this is a massive delta of manual work that can be done automatically by having these smart versionable clips. So let me just indulge me here. I'm going to just go ahead and take one of my other timelines with my laser here and just do a quick update for you. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and just change like the color of the laser and put it into the 25-second timeline. And you're going to see how through these smart clips, these versionable clips, we can get an update. So let's just grab our raise here, and let's say, okay, well, the clients decided that all the colored rays have to be a certain specific color, and we want to make sure that that is how these effects look. Send that back. Of course, that's going to update in the timeline that I sent it from. At least that's, yeah, there it is. But then what if I want to ripple that change through all of my timelines? So let me just line them up. You can see the disparity. Some of these shots are older versions. This one has got some of the work we did earlier, not all of it. So I'm just going to select all of these guys and say, update all to the latest version. And what you should start to see is that they'll all come to sync here. So just give it a second. There we go. So then those are all now that laser. These are all updated and so on. Wherever the shot is in the timeline, this is an automated way of bringing your work up to date. So that's really what I wanted to show you. If we could just go back to a 3-up view to remind us that what we were looking at, Toba's still working on it, I think. He's taking another version, sneaking one in. And we really had to start with down here in the lower left, delivering to the job tree from that initial conform. We were working on shots on other machines. He's going to actually show us that job tree, which he would sort of pick from. It's in there somewhere, yeah. And then finally, as it sort of comes back into the finishing arena, you want to be able to make these dynamic updates. So with all that said, why don't I play you, just to finish up here, the second half of this piece. And again, thanks to the guys from PsyOp. Hopefully, this is making some sense as a way of working within the pipeline here on Flame. And this is the second half of this cool commercial from PsyOp for Samsung Galaxy. All right, football will save the planet. Did you know that? That's great. Okay, so thanks so much for listening. Please take a look to the information booth or go take a look at our demo pod around the corner. Thanks for listening, guys.